Hello, everybody. Welcome to another dispatch. Is this? I'm going to start that again. That was weird. Let's do this one more time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another dispatch. And we're going to do one more dispatch from this book by Charlene Spretnak. Yeah. So I was looking through trying to find something, wanting to find something more recent, more closer to our time. So I am going to read a section on Agnes Martin, and then a very short one after that on Gerhard Richter. Gerhard Richter. Okay, so and the record, yes, we are recording, and we're recording. Good. Okay. In her earliest years, Agnes Martin, 1912 to 2004, experienced the world as endless plains stretching across Saskatchewan. Born of Scots Presbyterian parents, she was closest to her maternal grandfather, under whose influence she read Pilgrim's Progress and the Bible over and over. As a child in Vancouver, she did a lot of drawing. As an artist in New York in the late 1950s, she was particularly affected by the works of Rothko, Pollock, and Reinhardt, with whom she developed a friendship and an interest in Asian spiritual teachings. Ad Reinhardt, who was very into Zen. She always considered herself an abstract expressionist, though her paintings were sometimes grouped with works by the younger minimalist painters. This seemed odd to her, because the minimalists prided themselves on banishing content from their work, a goal that held no interest for her. Nonetheless, in formal terms, she influenced several of them. Martin had moved to New York in 1958 and rented a 100-feet-long live-in studio in the 19th century shipping lofts at Contie's Slip on the East River. Her neighbors were the artists Ellsworth Kelly, Robert Indiana, Ann Wilson, James Rosenquist, Lenore Tawney, and Jack Youngerman, joined later when Martin moved around the corner by Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberger. They were friendly, but did not socialize together. Youngerman recalls, quote, this envelope of private space with no merging intimacies. We were a group of solitudes. We were all a bunch of Protestants from the hinterlands. As such, he adds, they felt a sense of sacredness in work. A somewhat eccentric spiritual orientation was held by some, such as Rauschenberg's, having written to his gallerist Betty Parsons in the early 1950s that his all-white paintings are God, G-O-D capitalized, and are a natural response to the current pressures of the faithless and a promoter of intuitional optimism. Kelly remembers Martin from those days as, quote, a very spiritual person of great sensitivity. After a decade in New York, she moved to a place of far greater solitude, a remote parcel of land in New Mexico, on which she built an adobe house and studio. Martin worked in various genres for 20 years before coming into her mature style around 1960, which involved a canvas in a square format, usually 6 feet by 6 feet, primed with 2 layers of gesso onto which she applied hand-drawn pencil lines and then thin layers of paint, initially oil, then acrylic, which she preferred because it dried more quickly. When she first made a grid, Martin recalled, she, quote, happened to be thinking of the innocence of trees And then a grid came into my mind, and I thought it represented innocence, and I still do. And so I painted it, and then I was satisfied. I thought, this is my vision. Innocence, a quote, quiet, non-objective happiness, and the diffused state of perfection, free from clanking thoughts and ideas, was the way in which Martin conceived of the unbounded consciousness described in Taoist and Chan Buddhist texts. She stated in 1983, my greatest spiritual inspiration came from the Chinese spiritual teachers, especially Lao Tzu. My next strongest influence is the sixth patriarch, Hui Neng. I have also read and been inspired by the other Buddhist masters and Chuang Tzu, who was very wise and very amusing. Martin believed the function of art, the function of artwork is the renewal of memories, of moments of perfection. The ethereal quality of Martin's paintings results from very subtle, luminous patterns formed as the off-white underpainting interacts visually with a delicate grid overlay, which is intentionally imperfect and slightly off-center. She painted her response to inspiration such that the viewer is united with, quote, an experience of simple joy, the simple, direct going into a field of vision. In 1966, she stated, my paintings have neither objects, nor space, nor time, nor anything. No forms. They are light. Lightness, about merging, about formlessness, breaking down form. In particular, Martin sought to break down or reduce the, quote, authoritative, unquote, nature of the square by using only numerous, very small rectangles, which she saw as more pleasant to compose her fine line grids. She explained that the formats are square, but the grids are never absolutely square. They are rectangles, a little bit off the square, making a sort of contradiction, a dissonance. When I cover the square surface with rectangles, it lightens the weight of the square, destroys its power. When Martin was awarded the Golden Lion Award at the 1997 Venice Biennale, she accepted it, which was an exception to her usual policy of declining awards and honorary degrees on the grounds that, quote, I don't really think I'm responsible. That's brilliant. Oh my, I don't really think I'm responsible. Fantastic. Okay, now Charlene Spretnak goes on. I'm gonna have a sip here, excuse me. Often referred to in the media as the most highly acclaimed artist in the world today, whom the art critic Peter Schjeldahl calls a master, the best alive. The painter Gerhard Richter, born 1932, has created an oeuvre over 5 decades that includes both abstract and figurative works. He was born in Dresden and raised in a religious Lutheran family. They moved when he was 3 years old to a small town for his father's job offer, thus escaping the firebombing of that city in February 1945. After the war, he studied art in Dresden, where he was influenced by the works of Caspar David Friedrich, and then in Dusseldorf, where he was inspired by the iconoclastic Fluxus performances of Joseph Beuys and others. Because Richter came of age in communism, in a communist country, and went on to paint, quote, uncompromising, large-scale abstract works. It was generally assumed in the art world that, being a, quote, serious person, unquote, he would, of course, have no interest in religion. In recent years, however, Richter has sought to correct that impression in various interviews. Quote, art is the pure realization of religious feeling, capacity for faith, longing for God. The ability to believe is our outstanding quality, and only art adequately translates it into reality. He adds, art is not a substitute religion. It is a religion, in the true sense of the word, binding back, binding to the unknowable, transcending reason, transcendent being. But the church is no longer adequate as a means of affording experience of the transcendental and of making religion real. And so art has been transformed from a means into the sole provider of religion, which means religion itself. End quote. Richter makes clear he does not believe in a personified Godhead. Quote, I can't believe in God as such. He's either too big or too small for me and always incomprehensible. End quote. He emphasizes, however, that he has always believed in the spiritual dimension of life. Even as an atheist, I believe. It's our culture, Christian history. That's what's formed me. Moreover, his belief has influenced the creation of his paintings. Quote, art is the ideal medium for making contact with the transcendental, or at least for getting close to it. All right, well, there you go. Onward. I hope you're all well, making stuff, staying cool, hanging in there. All right, take care, everybody. Bye.